So the Draco the Ruler murder might actually be getting solved, and the man that everybody's been pointing fingers at for years, the man in red, big YG, all right, YG 400, they're now pointing the finger at him. Apparently, the cops executed a search warrant at his home, and he was briefly detained. This is insanity, okay? And a few people might have been right about some of the things that they were saying over the past few years, all right? That's all I'm going to say. Look at this. So that's YG. Now, I've heard people saying it was his house getting searched, or it may well have been an address that's actually a business address that he owns or operates out of, but it appears to be him getting detained by some officers. They're clearly looking into the situation. He is a person of interest. We've been hearing rumors and talks of, you know, police turning up to no jumper. We've been hearing reports of people who used to be at No Jumper, aka Poetic Flacco, getting, you know, some information that, you know, maybe he was in trouble, maybe they was the guys in red weren't too happy about him, and he did actually make it to his versus battle with the game, which I believe is actually going on right now live, which is insanity. Okay, people in the comments talking about, we know the truth, all right, long time coming, RIP Draco. It is absolutely crazy. So here's kind of some more details about his detention, and it was very interesting. He was apparently detained by the Burbank police. So these was the details in TMZ. YG detained as cops execute search warrant over Draco the Ruler murder. Okay, we already saw this footage. We don't need to see it again. But basically, he still made it to his versus battle as planned, even though he was briefly detained. He had a run-in with the cops Thursday morning. It was a SWAT response. He was ultimately released, but apparently the SWAT team responded around 7 a.m. in Burbank, California, and he was detained during the police response, but ultimately he was let go. There he is. Now, he just released a project, and I did say in a previous video he just handed the feds a RICO because he was talking a little bit too hot about that Draco stuff on the album. He denied being involved. He denied a little bit too hard being involved, and then he also kind of admitted to certain little details and sort of denied the beef, but then sort of confirmed the beef by having a whole song. And I personally believe he was dissing Flacco in that song. That's my opinion. They're saying CHP was the lead agency on the matter and Burbank SWAT assisted. I didn't know Burbank had a SWAT team, all right? But, hey, anybody else that's got a spot in Burbank, y'all need to be careful that SWAT team don't bust through the door. Anyway, it says cops are executing a search warrant for the investigation into Draco the Ruler's murder. A lot of people thought this is never going to get solved. Not true, folks. Not true. It is going to get solved eventually. All these crimes get solved eventually. This is 2020. This is big 2026, bro. We got Ring doorbell cameras. We've had big DNA evidence. We got, you know, all of this technology that is available nowadays. Everyone's snitching on themselves on their cell phones. Your phones are listening to you 24/7. And then you got people jumping on podcasts talking about the homies gonna get you. It's just crazy, bro. It's crazy. People can't get away with these kind of crimes forever. And you got people like Flacco popping out talking about Frankenstein did it. It's absolutely crazy era we're living in, and crime is just not worth it. It was never worth it, but you had a lot more of a chance of getting away with all these cheeky little murders in the 90s, but it ain't happening now. And if anybody around YG or YG himself had a shred to do with the Draco murder, best believe that's coming out eventually, and they're at least going to try and prosecute you, just like they tried to prosecute Draco all the way back then, and he ended up beating it. But basically, that property is connected to YG, who had beef with the late rapper, but denied any involvement. I'm assuming it was a business address just by the way that it looked. So it says he wasn't arrested. He was detained during the search warrant and released, but the timing is wild. This was apparently mere hours before YG was scheduled to take the stage at the Thursday night versus battle against the game. Blood on blood violence by the sounds of it. Everybody, both of them guys are rocking for one blood. Now, I actually should tune into that, but I'm too busy. I've got too much going on to tune into that. But apparently, that's going on at 6. So that's been going on for over an hour now when I'm recording this video. But that's him. Apparently, we've got his Lambo pulled up there. That's no way to pull up a Lambo. These things are low as hell. It pulled up on that big LA curb. That's looking horrible. That's a suspension nightmare. I've only driven one of these once, but this is a back-breaking car. Never drive one of these. This isn't YG's first police encounter in Burbank. He was previously arrested there in October 2024 for misdemeanor DUI after cops found him outside his car, which had gone over a curb. Oh, so this is this is him getting arrested for a DUI back then. Well, clearly, this isn't a sober move you'd make, let alone in this car. You know what I'm saying? A big Jeep probably wouldn't even take on that curb. The curbs in America or in LA in general are massive. First came the cops. Next up, the game. Okay, so news would then report immediately after this from TMZ that the game battle was still on, despite the run-in with the cops. I was at the courthouse for the David trial. Once I got out and I was able to receive my phone back again, I'm hearing people talking about, yo, YG got picked up for the murder of Drakeo. Now, clearly it wasn't the murder of Drakeo. He wasn't picked up for that. But they're executing a search warrant on one of his properties, and I wonder if they found anything. So the Verzuz still went ahead. It is going on right now. Go and check that out if you haven't. I'll probably go and check it out later or tomorrow on the weekend. I'm so busy with this David trial. Hopefully, I mean, I was going to say, hopefully we're not attending YG's trial, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to stay impartial. If YG does get locked up for this, might see him in the courthouse, and you know what I'm saying, if he tries to go all Aunt Hefe on me, we're not letting that one slide this time. But basically, the property is connected to YG. It doesn't say whether it's a business address. YG was detained, which we already heard. But basically, this is low-key promo for his Verzuz. So Adam 22, I believe they were actually live, or they were scheduled to go live right before this news came out. And Adam actually discussed an alleged witness that the police might have already who might be tied to YG's camp. So there's going to be a lot of information coming out about this very soon.
Frankenstone, even after Flacco doing this sort of expose. But Frankenstone is the guy that Flacco claims is actually being investigated, and that police believe was the one who did the final stabbing that could have really ended Drakeo's life. And from sources that I've heard, the whole scuffle, the whole melee that was taking place with Drakeo, I know it's probably like tempting for a lot of people to say, oh, well, you know, it was a ton of different guys jumping Drakeo at the same time, so it's going to be almost impossible to say that anybody specifically took his life. Okay, sure, makes sense. But what if, and this is kind of based on conversations I've had with people, what if there was one person who, after most of the jumping, after most of the beating had already been administered, what if there was one person who really delivered like a decisive blow with a knife to an area of his body that would have almost certainly took his life? I have heard, this is what I've heard, I have heard that there is a person, and I'm not going to go into detail, maybe a security guard, but at the very least somebody who was there, who's on Drakeo's side, I would assume. I don't think it was somebody who just like worked for the venue, but apparently this person has shared with the police his belief that this guy was the one, that Frankenstone was the one who stabbed Drakeo the final blow. So if the cops actually do have a eyewitness who's willing to say that they believe that he did it, now I would assume that he was masked. That's going to make it a little bit harder, I would assume, to really like decisively say, hey, this is the guy who did it, if he was masked. But I'm not 100% sure about that. But that is a rumor that I've heard. I don't tend to bring rumors to the table all too often, but I've heard that from a pretty verified source, that they do have a witness that is claiming that he has more inside knowledge about exactly who delivered the final blow. And maybe I'm just conflating things, but my source says that this is the guy that has been identified, and I think that is the intelligence that Flacco was given a couple months ago. You feel me? So is it true? Do I have any insider knowledge that this is the guy? No, but the rumor that I heard is that this guy is the one who's really being primarily investigated on top of that. So
look, Adam knows the details. Apparently the cops pulled up to No Jumper last week and were asking a whole lot of questions. Now, interestingly enough, a few days ago, Flacco let the world know that his address was apparently being shared amongst the Bloods that are, you know, involved in this situation, allegedly. You know, like basically just people that sort of at least just know about this situation, or, you know, didn't like Drakeo, or kind of, you know, just on the red team, basically. I'm not saying anyone was specifically involved in the incident, but Flacco basically detailed that he was apparently warned that his address had been shared amongst people that were really not happy about the information he was putting out there about Frankenstone.
dumb. That's just dumb. That's almost as dumb as you sending people my address. Oh, you thought I didn't know about that? Now ask yourself how I know about that. Just ask yourself, how do I know about that? This man don't even understand how much nonsense he done got himself in, man. That's a different story for another day. Okay, but Munchie B has been on his internet, on these podcasts, trying to convince the world the United Bloods congregation of LA County formed like Voltron and conspired to murder Drakeo the Ruler.
So, look, Flacco definitely has been kind of raising a lot of awareness about this case. Now, obviously, I did a long documentary about Drakeo the Ruler kind of a couple of years after he passed away. And I explored in that video, you know, there's no evidence that obviously Munchie B, the kind of Red affiliated No Jumper host, is really a fan favorite right now, right? Munchie's probably the top podcaster on No Jumper right now as far as the fans actually love Munchie, so it would be so tragic for him to be taken off the show. But as far as I was aware, I didn't see any evidence to suggest Munchie was involved. He definitely hated Drakeo, and it's no secret that Drakeo had dissed him a bunch of times. Drakeo had said he put $50,000 on Munchie's head in a song. So no doubt he hated him, but at the same time, obviously Munchie, you know, he doesn't have his full vision, so he wouldn't even be able to participate in this crime. So I'm not thinking Munchie is truly involved, but Munchie has definitely trolled Drakeo the Ruler after his death. He definitely was happy that Drakeo passed away due to the dissing between them, and also the fact that Drakeo and his friends allegedly murdered one of Munchie's close friends, Red Bull. And so just hating him doesn't necessarily mean that they were involved. YG, on the other hand, he is, you know, unfortunately, despite being quite secretive about, not secretive about his street ties, but it's like, it seemed like for years YG was very careful about what he said, and then it's just like moment by moment he's kind of done a little bit too much. There was the famous interview on No Jumper where, you know, Drakeo was on No Jumper and dissed YG and Munchie. You know, allegedly Drakeo shot YG back in the day, and now we're finding out, you know, YG was on No Jumper talking about, oh, we ain't rap beefing, the homies gonna get you, and then the homies did get him. And, you know, when it was the footage going around of all of the Bloods that jumped Drakeo and murdered him at that festival where he passed away, people are wearing YG's 400 merch, right? Big YG 400, like, bro, we seeing your merch at the scene of the murder. And then, you know, a lot of people kind of going back and forth saying that, you know, people from over that side might have had something to do with it. Now, at the end of the day, you can call me a snitch all you want, but, like, fools are jumping on podcasts talking about the homies are going to get you. You know, we're seeing your merch at the scene of the crime. It is definitely very, very suspect. And no doubt the authorities have been looking into this closely too. If a bunch of YouTubers can see all these details and connect the dots, no doubt the cops will be doing so too. But whether or not YG is personally involved and whether there's evidence he's involved in the murder of Drakeo the Ruler, that's yet to be seen. But this is the kind of discourse going around on Reddit now that, you know, this information has been disseminated. YG detained as the cops execute a search warrant over Drakeo the Ruler murder. People saying, oh, the Verzuz is tonight. And the people saying he was released. People saying he snitched that easily. Damn, there is no proof that he snitched, all right? They're saying they just got the brand new McDonald's Chicken Big Mac TM, so the snitching was justified. Another pit sandwich and some potato salad, and a few more. All right, I don't see any evidence of YG being a snitch. If anything, I think he's going down with the ship if it turns out to be true. So I see a funny comment. It says, you are now the proud owner of an accessory after the fact RICO conspiracy and aiding and abetting charge from the feds, unless you appreciate delectable McDonald's meals and want to make life easier for the feds. Now, here's the thing, okay? People are basically saying, we know the truth on his new album, had me thinking of that Key and Peele sketch. Surely this is just pressure to get somebody to talk, especially doing this the day of the Verzuz. Now, here's the thing. In that song, he kind of denies it, but then it's like, you talking too much. You referring to the incident too much. You said too much in this song. You got an intro, like an AI intro that basically, this is about Flacco. YG's being accused of murder. Police officers said they're looking for more information. This all came, I made a video about this years ago and YG didn't do a peep. This ain't about me, all right? As much as it's cool when a rapper shouts you out, I've been dissed by Dirk and Youngboy, okay, and several others. But this ain't about me in the video I made 2 years ago, probably 3 years ago. This about Flacco, all right? YG being accused of murder. Flacco was the one talking about that. They say, I murdered this, I murdered that. Well, if that was true, you'd be a effing rat. He's talking about Flacco. This is a Flacco diss song because of all the videos Flacco made about him. And I'll be sleeping in a cell on a rack, but it ain't an effing fact. All that talking on the app. Streets has done this, a rap. They want to see me fall. You're doing too much. And the fact that you're so annoyed by people talking about if that was true, you'd be a rat. You're doing way too much, all right? Got paid $600 for that show. Why would I tell a dude F it up, though? Well, allegedly, he shot you back in the day, and you was upset about that. So, and he's talking about, well, my friend Slim just died, so I couldn't possibly have been worried about Drakeo. I don't think that's true. The fact is, then I heard dudes saying YG paid, stop lying, come run YG fade. I hadn't seen anybody saying YG paid. What, you mean paid for the murder of Drakeo the Ruler and get wrapped up in a RICO indictment? This is what I'd say, like, you protesting too much. You answering questions that didn't actually get asked yet. Nobody asked, and, you know, you now the police are raiding your warehouse. So that's a really, really messed up thing to kind of put out there. Talks about growing up in Inglewood, rocking with the Inglewoods because he's a blood. Again, he was mad at Drake for pointing out that he really bangs a set. But then he's like, duh, I'm a blood. And basically, like, you know, he claiming his gang affiliation as Inglewood, and obviously Drakeo released a song called Ingleweird that offended everyone in Inglewood. So it's kind of like you laying the motive for the murder. You know, he had beef with a whole other rapper that was on the show. Yeah, well, he had beef with a whole bunch of different rappers and bloods and blood affiliates, basically, that, you know, you was all at war with him. Talking about, I'm at war, they're trying to up the score. This is, like, really bad to let everybody know you're at war. And it's one of these ones where it's like, he probably thought that he was being slick, taking him off the scent by being honest, but it's, like, too much. And again, basically, he talks about Kells, who is the guy that was, you know, essentially the murderer of Red Bull, who was a close friend of Munchie B's. He was an infamous blood from Inglewood, and he was murdered by Kells and a group of people that included Drakeo the Ruler, but Drakeo ended up beating the money. Hearing I put money on his head, embarrassing. No one was really, like, saying that with any proof, and again, it's like, you've addressed it a couple times, talking about these false narratives, and it's like one of these ones where it's like, you know, he's saying he wants to kill Flacco. There's part of me that want to kill dudes, lied on my name and kept it real. That's what happens when you're still up in the field. What do you mean you're still in the field? You still up in the field? And you want to kill the people that are lying on your name and you denying... Okay. This is definitely just wasn't a great idea. They're saying YG was publicly detained on the morning of the 2020 Grammys when he was supposed to honor Nipsey. They're saying they're just trying to pressure him to get someone to talk, doing it on the Verzuz. They're saying, yeah, Los Angeles PD teamed up with Swiss Beats and Timbaland to promote the Verzuz. Says every eyewitness report says it was people with 400 merch surrounding Drakeo during the attack he was killed in. We don't know what's in the search warrant, but it make a lot of sense that they executed it the morning they knew YG and a lot of his associates would be in LA. Well, all the guys that wear the 400 merch, maybe that was the 400 warehouse, I don't know, all right? As if on cue, all the attackers remove their red hoodies and scatter. In the video, a mob circles around a blurred figure on the ground. Later, a private investigator volunteers his services to Draco's family, tells them he counts 113 people taking on 7. Right? Absolutely tragic. People saying, I was on the front side of the stage when it happened backstage. Imagine waiting for 50 Cent. There's a delay. All of a sudden, 50 cop cars surround the venue and a police helicopter circling above your head. All the while, the venue isn't announcing shit. Everyone says on their phone something happened to Drakeo, and they're still not saying anything, and then they sent everyone home after 2 hours. F you, Once Upon a Time in LA. Disorganized mess from start to finish, and double F you for allowing that to happen backstage. That's a fact. I hope they got sued to the nines, and Ralphie the Plug buys 10 cars with the money that he gets out of them, to be honest with you guys. Long live the ruler. We know the truth. I think the cops are going to know the truth very soon. The way they did him was sickening. It was always going to be FYG for that. Obviously, people are sharing that article from LA Mag. And shout out to LA Mag. I've been spending time with some of the people from LA Mag over the last couple of days at the David Trial. Really good people. Great journalists. Quality work by everybody over there. Utmost respect to LA Mag, man, or Los Angeles Mag. It's actually called, they're telling me it's called Los Angeles Mag, all right? But people call it LA Mag, but it's actually called Los Angeles Magazine. Anyway, it says the game's furiously making calls to get YG taken care of before tonight. Sarcasm. All right, they be saying game's a snitch. I've never seen any proof of that. So, I mean, from what I heard, it sounds like YG was in the vicinity, but not where the fight was actually going on. I'm kind of like, what are they going to find from a guy that wasn't in the fight like 4 to 5 years after the fact? They're saying about time. We know the truth. Long live Drakeo. They're saying YG was jealous. Drakeo was very close to being the new face of gangster rap in LA after the Drake feature. I ain't going to lie. Drakeo had more motion than YG at that point, and he had the Drake feature recently. Meanwhile, YG's Drake features were legendary, but they were kind of a little bit more in the past. A little bit of time had moved on. People had moved on to support Drakeo. And as I broke down in a couple other videos, people were definitely not feeling YG as much as Drakeo at that point in time. Saying YG didn't have a hit since 2018. Drakeo basically replaced him as the face of gangster rap in LA. All right. So obviously that article's been put out there a lot. Drakeo should have moved out of LA, should have moved to the suburbs. He got out of LA. He was super tapped with all the PTSD from all that solitary confinement. It says here, you know, he had a big mouth. That's what made his music and personality so great, but it's also what pissed a bunch of people off. He had a whole song called Inglewood and dissed everybody that had ever come from Inglewood. It was savage, to be honest with you. It was absolutely savage. So, you know, it really just, it was just sad. So it says they're getting close. Long live Drakeo the ruler. This is in the No Jumper sub. They said, by the way, CHP has jurisdiction over this case because it occurred on state property. So it says California Highway Patrol actually are leading the case because of where the murder happened, I suppose, because of where the actual venue for the Once Upon a Time in LA, I believe it was called, or a day in, no, it wasn't a day in, Once Upon a Time in LA, that's some other shit. So they're saying Munchie better get his affairs in order. They're saying they can't do shit to Munchie. Whoever is investigating this case sucks. Says the dude is blind. He wasn't anywhere near the murder scene. Flacco and the people in here saying Munchie is done. Kill me. Done with what? I hear it. All right. Look, Munchie just cooling off. He dissed Drakeo a million times and was absolutely doing a victory lap when he got killed. But at the end of the day, he ain't do nothing. Yeah, he's talking about he passes a bottle to Draco's killer every day, but at the same time, it's like, do they have a picture of him passing a bottle to somebody? I don't know if that's really going to hold up, all right? People saying this is TMZ clickbait. He wasn't detained over the Drakeo passing. It says SWAT response, but he was ultimately released. They're saying Big U, Brick Baby, and 6ix9ine all got picked up allegedly multiple times prior to their RICO indictments. Okay, and unfortunately, yeah, there was police activity at No Jumper right before everything all came down. So I'm not going to lie, I would not be surprised if there was a big arrest soon. But I don't think Munchie's going to get arrested. Well, I don't think Munchie had anything to do with Draco's murder. So, you know what I'm saying? That's all I can really say. I don't know. Because Drakeo was effing with people. You act like he's innocent. They're getting closer. So y'all want them to solve the case. I mean, yes, murder cases should be solved. Nobody should have the impunity to take people's lives. Don't care if you... But he made a diss song. Oh, he was dissing Inglewood. Like, yeah, but you can't take extrajudicial law into your hands like this. I don't care if you the Bloods, you the Crips, you from Inglewood. They dissed Inglewood. Like, bro, you should have made... a song about Draco's whole crew being weird, the Stinkle weird or something. Like, just do your thing, keep it music. I know this was already a gang beef before, but the idea of like, oh, you want him to solve? I want him to solve. Yes, I want him to solve the case. I want to know who murdered Drakeo. I want to know who to avoid. I want to know that if anything bad like that happens to anybody that I know, it's going to be taken seriously and dealt with. Because I ain't sliding for nobody. People talking about slide for this person, slide for that person. I'll be sliding to the police station with all the information I know immediately to solve this and maintain law and order in a civil society. All I said was they're getting closer. Stop insinuating shit. That's how rumors start. We're going to skip that comment. They're saying YG finna tell super fast if he's arrested and threatened with long-term incarceration. Whatever income he brings is likely propping up all of his close family and friends plus their respective families. Dude is going to tell, and we're all going to watch LA deteriorate to ATL. They're saying, well, YG not folding. Is Lil Durk going to fold? He the one they want. Can you say the same about YG? He's the leader, so-called. They want the killer with him. Both could get done for murder for hire. All right, it's not looking too good. It's crazy how you unalived Wack and Adams artists and they invite everyone who knew about it to dry snitch an investigation while using Flacco, who blew up off catching Dolph's killer. Y'all better pay attention. Oh, and I'm banned on my other page. What, you think this is a honeypot operation? All of No Jumper and Poetic Flacco is a honeypot operation to lure in the Bloods and get them all locked up. I have heard, like... I've heard more sensible things in Dr. Seuss books. Let's put it that way, okay? Oh shit, what do you think? This is Cali Banging. This is the premier gang banging subreddit for California gangs. And listen, LAPD did this because they don't want a street gang to basically have a homecoming party tonight for the game and YG's Verzuz. People saying, I don't know why, but I feel like this case will never get solved. It's been 6 years. It's actually wild. The case hasn't been solved yet, considering the circumstances and his status. The people who were with Drakeo that night never even got asked for witness statements. The non-stink team members, that is. Right after the situation happened, people were self-snitching and the investigators should have made the arrest during that time and done wiretaps. I also believe YG is an informant or has connections with corrupt LAPD officers. This dude YG, his car was involved in a police shootout where an innocent bystander got killed, and until this day YG never got arrested for it, and the dudes in the shootout never got found. Police never solved the case or charged anyone. Saying biggest gang in America for a reason, little homie. Cases go cold for years and then something pops up the case. YG's not a rat. If anything, it was that blind man that woke it up. I think honestly, this song really, like, this song made it real. Before this, it was just a bunch of nonsense on Clubhouse and podcasts that doesn't really mean anything, didn't really prove anything. This made it real. This put it on wax. This put it on, you know, Spotify, distro. I don't know if this album charted on the Billboard, to be honest, but you know, this basically made it real. This made it industry. This confirmed it. The fact that it was talked about on this really, really kind of made it real, to be honest with you. They're saying Munchies. They're saying Whack 100 behind this. So can someone smarter than me tell me how searching his house would help find the stabber? Was it a show of power? Were they trying to seem not worthless as detectives? Only thing I get is maybe a search warrant for his phone, but I'm sure he's gotten a new one since then. Search warrants need to spell out what they're looking for. Where would you search for a phone? Probably their residence. It's not entirely clear if it was a home or a business location. If it's the 400 merch warehouse, you know, a bunch of guys that were at the scene of the murder were wearing 400 merch. That's documented on video. I ain't no, you know what I'm saying? I ain't no snitch. I would snitch. I ain't no snitch, but I would snitch. So like at the end of the day, y'all are wearing branded merch at the scene of a murder on video. Yeah, there's no need for a snitch. There's no requirement for a snitch. The self-snitching has already taken place. So, you know, don't do crimes and stab people to death while wearing team/gang merch. Definitely don't put it on wax, kind of like this response to all the allegations, including responding to some things that no one's actually said yet. And I just think that this is really, really unfortunate. I do hope they solve the murder of Drakeo the Ruler. I hope YG's not involved in it. I hope Munchie's not involved in it. I hope that this was, you know, a small group of people who got out of hand that night and can ultimately be held accountable for their own personal actions. But if this is a wider arching RICO case and YG is involved in it, I think they will find that out eventually. So we will find out too. And yeah, there's been a lot of police activity going on. Something's happening. So I'll keep you guys posted if I hear anything else. I might go and check out a little bit of the Verzuz now. I've got another David video coming imminently, maybe now. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching this one. And for now, guys, I'm out. Thanks. Peace.